In this video, we gotta talk about 3 overpowered heroes that you should be abusing for every single role at the end of Season 4. These are so dominant, and some of them are a bit underrated as well, so if you want to climb incredibly quickly, these are the heroes that you should be playing. Now, only a small percentage of you are actually subscribed, so do me a solid and smash it right now, and let's jump into it. Now, the first hero that we got on the list is a tank hero, and it's Rampart. Now, I know that Rampart hasn't been getting as much love recently. A lot of people are playing many different things, whether it's Junker Queen, or maybe it's Sigma, but Rampart is incredibly slept on. I think he really doesn't have that many bad matchups, if any at all. And Rampart just gets to outplay people consistently because you control a number of different engagements. If enemies are pushing onto you when you don't want them to, you have your vortex to slow them down. If enemies are uncomfortable with you getting up close, you wait for your opportunity, you pop Nemesis, and then you strike. Rampart gets to play whatever range is most optimal for him, and this means that every single engagement is in your favor, and you can just avoid all the ones that are not. As long as you make sure that you're utilizing your cooldowns to enable your strengths and prevent the enemy tank from getting into their strengths when you're not ready. As an example, if like a shout comes out from Junker Queen or a pin on Rhine, you should have your cooldowns to deny these things. But on top of that, Rampart is just really good at sometimes just pivoting into the backline, killing DPS, killing supports, a very hard carry tank, and don't even get me started about Rampart's ultimate, which combos with a number of different things: speed boost, Kitsune Rush, Nano, and it just kills. It just wins fights, it wins games. It's one of the most powerful ultimates right now. And honestly, if you were only going to get good at one tank, I think the best tank that can climb you all the way from any rank to Grandmaster 1 or even top 500, it would be Rampart for sure. The next on the list, we have a support, and this support I feel like is just really good right now, but not enough people are playing him, and it's Baptiste. Baptiste is just so good in a brawl meta. All the dominant characters right now are really enabled by Bap. You gotta think about what the best tanks are, and it's pretty much Brawl, Junker Queen, Rampart, Zarya, and it's also Poke, which is like Sigma and Rampart, and Baptiste plays really well in both. In the Poke stages of a composition, you are really good at dealing damage from range, actually killing people just straight up and providing a lot of damage and pressure. And in situations where your tanks are going at it and they're brawling, you have a crazy amount of burst to help your tank win the matchup, and your lamp is not only a clutch lamp to save yourself or your team, but also gives your tank so much more sustain when they're in a very proactive fight. And really the cherry on top of this character is the fact that he has Exo Boots, which allows him to take the high ground, which just makes him so strong on maps like Defense Nibani, Route 66. There's a lot of maps that heavily favor this character. When you're playing something like Ana, you're just so linear, stuck to the ground, and you don't get to control your engagements at all, and you don't get to take aggressive positions, nor do you get to reset to a defensive one in the mid-fight. Baptiste can do all these things, and this is why Baptiste is so strong right now, and I really do think that more people should be grinding this character if you want to win. Now, the next character that we got to talk about in this video is actually Torb. Yes, I'm talking about Torb for the DPS role, and this character is just slept on. He's good in Poke, he's good in Brawl, he's just so freaking strong, and I think that a lot of people like to whip this character out as an anti-dive, and they don't realize how good he is just in any composition and against any composition. Turret and Torb's primary fire just adds a ton of pressure, and I think the most underrated aspect of Torb is just the fact that he's beefy as hell. He doesn't die very easily at all, and unless he's getting one shot from range, and on most maps it's going to be hard for them to do so, Torb is just a ton of constant pressure. Now, this is especially compounded against some compositions that don't have a way to deal with Torb very reliably. Really strong pick against characters like Tracer, characters like Echo. I already know how high of a win rate this guy has in the metal ranks of play, and it doesn't really scale off all that much in the high ranks of play either. Underrated, incredibly powerful, and I think there's few characters that just get his automatic or inherent level of impact game after game. Then moving on to the 6th character, the second tank, it's Diva. Diva is really great right now, and I do think it's for 2 primary reasons. One, Diva can choose her own engagements. None of this seems rather obvious. Of course, you could fight when you want to fight, but Diva in particular is like a surgeon, looking for the opportunity and the weakness in the enemy team's positioning. One of the big problems that Diva players have is they're always fighting tanks in ranges that they shouldn't be. Fighting a Rhine up close, fighting a Zarya up close, when you could play the high ground, you could play away from these players, and most of the time, time, you're not trying to contest the objectives, or you're not trying to challenge the enemy tank. You're looking for an opportunity, a vulnerability, where you can go on a DPS or support that's out of position, get that advantage, and then eventually win the staggered out fight when the tank couldn't do anything to stop you. Don't allow the enemy to put you into their effective range by putting pressure on an objective. Keep in mind that if you win the team fight, you can always retake the objective as long as you don't give them all of it. It's all about finding that advantage first and then dealing with that tank later and not running headfirst into your bad matchups. Also, Diva's really good on high ground maps, really versatile with a number of different compositions, and just all around a really solid tank right now. Now, the next support that we got to talk about is Moira. This is kind of just a powerhouse right now, especially with the change to Coalescence, and especially if you're in the metal ranks. Moira is phenomenal against characters like Zen, especially characters like even Mercy, and you're really strong against characters like Ana. And really, Moira wants to be pretty proactive. You're going to often want to be on the outskirts, off angles, looking for opportunities. You're going to want to find key pivotal moments where you can go for an offensive play. And of course, you're not going to want to completely neglect your other support, but it's going to be a little bit different depending on who it is. If it's someone like an Ana that might need your help and you're up against dive, you're probably going to peel a bit more. But if you're up against double sniper from distance, you staying with your Ana isn't really going to help that Ana in any meaningful way, and it'd make more sense for you to apply pressure somewhere with your damage. So realize that there's adaptations to your playstyle that actually matter depending on who you're up against. Now, the next character that we got to talk about is a DPS character, Mei. I really do think that Mei is just always slept on. I keep mentioning Mei over and over again, and people keep not playing this character. Mei is insane. Junker Queen, freaking Reinhardt, freaking Zarya, even Ramatra. All these characters just get bodied by a good Mei. And even Sigma, even against Sigma, Mei is actually really strong. I think that Mei is just really one of the best DPS, period. So freaking strong against tank, so good at helping your tank win the tank matchup, which, as we know, tank diff equals win, right? So if you're playing a DPS that swings that matchup in your favor, then you're gonna win more games. Now, I will say that with Mei, you're really scared of the one-shot long-distance characters like Widow, characters like Hanzo, but on some maps, these characters aren't nearly as good. And also, as long as you make sure that you're not forcing this fight, you're trying to play the matchup and the tank matchup that is favored to you, and not go and freaking go out and like alpha challenge all these matchups that are not. I think overall you're just going to be a more fundamental, solid character that brings so much value to your team. You're going to win the long game. Next off, we do got to talk about Zarya. I have been talking about Zarya quite a bit. This character is really good right now. It's a natural fold to Junker Queen with the bubbles and your ability to just consistently brawl. Getting high energy means that you can really just fight a Junker Queen straight up in a lot of ways, as long as you are properly balancing your cooldowns. And even more than that, Junker Queen really often wants to pivot into your back line, right? And if you bubble off her cleaves, you're denying the value. And if you pivot into a Junker Queen's backline with high energy, you can sometimes just do even more than that Junker Queen can, killing up their entire team and then eventually winning the staggered out fight with your cooldowns back again. Zarya's going to be strong on any brawl map, but she does have a couple of vulnerabilities. Long distance maps and against snipers, so Sigma maps, Havana, Circle Royale, these are not going to be the best for Zarya. And of course, she does have a bit of problems against Flyers, Far Mercy, Echo Mercy. These can be a bit frustrating for Zarya as well. And that's why I think a hero pool of Zarya and Diva is actually really good, because you kind of fill the gaps that you need and you're really flexible on some of these maps. Or if you want the trifecta, Zarya, Diva, and Sigma, then you got everything you need for pretty much every single map. And I think it's super strong, especially if you're not specifically a Junker Queen character. And it's nice that Diva and Zarya both have tracking based aim, so there's a lot of overlap. Now, number 2 in this video, and a character that is so damn strong, becoming stronger every single patch it seems, and it's Brig. Brig's ultimate is amazing, and I know that the initial response to Brig's ultimate was, this ultimate's not that good, it's worse than the last ultimate, but as we've been seeing in Overwatch League play, this ultimate is phenomenal, and even in ranked play, I think it's just underrated. Now, this doesn't mean that you pop this ultimate and run it down on every single person. Most of the time, you're going to want to pop this ultimate under 2 situations. One, if you're going to use it aggressively, the kill should be lined up for you. Like, the pressure's there, the kill's lined up for you, you're going to pop it, you're going to stun, you're going to kill the person outright, right? With the stun, the whip combo, right? That's what you're mainly going to do. The flail, stun, whip. But Otherwise, you just pop this ultimate defensively and it gives you a ton of sustain. Gets you up to full, gives you a huge shield, lets you control the fight, and helps you just keep your team alive. And I think that that's the underrated aspect of this ultimate. A lot of people are just using this as purely a pop it and run in, and that's not really going to be the most consistent amount of value. In fact, I would say that the previous ultimate is better if you're just popping it and running it all the time. The play should be in front of you, so it could be a playmaking ultimate when you see it, or it's an ultimate that lets you slow down the fight, stagger up the fight, stop the enemy team's momentum. They're rushing, they're pushing in, they gotta pick. You can slow down their momentum immensely with this ultimate, and I think all those are super underrated aspects. And of course, just Brig in general is just really great when enemies are playing Brawl, right? You have ways to control the distance, and that's important. If an enemy comes in, flailing them away, whether it's a Ramatra's Nemesis form, or a Zarya walking in, or a Junker Queen trying to swing on you, if you can control the distance, that means that you can control the game, because you control the enemy tank, and that's so important, and Brig can do all these things. So I do think that Brig is really, really strong right now. Definitely a character worth grinding. Now last, but certainly not least, drum roll please, it's Hanzo. Hanzo is just one of the best DPS to be playing right now, if not the best. He's so reliable in the meta because he's good against pretty much every single composition, and he's good with pretty much every single composition. You're playing a Brawl with Zarya or Junker Queen, he can take it off angle wide and apply a lot of pressure in mirrors, or just apply a pressure to enemy supports. You're playing the pokes, he's really, really good with Widowmaker to play these long distance poke maps. He kind of fills the role of a really cracked out Sojourn that's being pocketed without being pocketed, and the fact that you can take these really far off angles, completely ISO from your team, and constantly applying pressure, because what's not being played right now the most is dive. Dive tanks in particular are not being played all that much. I think the only one you really have to be careful of is Diva, but outside of her, against all these characters, like what is a Zarya supposed to do against a super wide, far away Hanzo? What is Junker Queen supposed to do? What are these tanks supposed to do? They can't really do anything, they can't interact, and Hanzo gets to control the distancing and the space on these matchups, and his ability to one-shot gives him such a huge advantage in any duel. Even if a DPS is trying to get him off the angle, all he has to do is hit one shot and wins the entire fight for his team. Hanzo's really, really strong. Definitely a character worth grinding, but I will say, just playing this character sometimes, it's going to be hard. Hanzo's very unique in his mechanical firing, and if you want to get good at it, I think you should probably prioritize playing Hanzo over other characters and practicing your Hanzo mechanics whenever possible. But definitely let me know what hero you think is the most underrated in the comments down below. Thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.